Greetings, everyone. My name is Michael Lawrence from 3A Composites. Wanted to say thank you for your time today. In our brief time together, we're going to be talking to Alan Plunkett, who is our Director of Retail and Strategy for 3A Composites. Alan has a long history with retail and actually in the substrate industry altogether. And with our time together, he's going to be sharing some of the things that he's learned through his time in being an influencer in our retail space and what he's hearing actually from some of the retailers about what to expect in this post-COVID-19 world. So with no further ado, I'll hand it over to Alan.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And thanks everyone for joining today. This is a crazy time. Who could ever predicted that we'd be going through something like this? It's totally unprecedented. It's kind of like the travel industry prior to 9/11 25 years ago. What you see in an airport today is certainly not what you saw before the 9/11 tragedy. And we just need to come to the realization that retail will never be the way it was. We just have to make a mental switch and know that there's going to be a brand new world out there and we need to adapt to it. Now, I can't tell you if your kids are going back to school in the fall, whether it's 2 days a week, 4 days a week, half days. I can't tell you that. I don't know if your pools are going to open this summer, but one thing I can guarantee you, the signs you are currently seeing in retail as the states reopen and stores reopen, signs like this, handwritten signs, they're not going to be there. They're going to be replaced by permanent signs, expanded PVC signs for cleanability and durability in the very near future. Talked to a good friend of mine at one of the major retailers last week. He said, Plunk, I can't even tell you that I cannot believe that my stores have this kind of signage in it, that there's handwritten stores. I never, ever thought I'd see a day like this. And we're kind of in a catch-22. Also talked to another friend of mine who owns one of the largest print service providers in North America who said it well. It's like, we're in a catch-22. The retailers know that they need all this signage for a post-COVID world, but they don't know what it needs to say. They don't know where it's going to be. So they're sitting on this huge demand for expanded PVC signage that's coming down, and it's going to come down in a very short period of time onto these print service providers where they're going to have to turn around an amazing amount of material in a short period of time to meet the demand at the retailers. And he said, you know what? Price is going to be secondary to availability when that time comes. So availability will trump price in the very near future. And also in the past few weeks, in talking to retailers and restaurant groups every day, what has started out as a really large, a big vat of information has slowly started to funnel down into 5 major hot topics that are starting to come out across the board, across all retailers and all restaurant groups. And the 5 hot topics are instructional and directional signage, number 1. Like this right here, I took this picture inside a local Giant Eagle, a basic instructional signage like that. 2 is sanitation stations. Hand washing stations are going to be everywhere throughout. In a grocery store, you're going to have 7, 8, 9, 10 of them. In a CVS, you're going to have 5 or 6. In a restaurant, you're going to have 3 or 4 sanitation stations. Number 3 is curbside pickup. It's been growing in momentum for the last couple of years. It is here to stay. It's one of the areas that's absolutely taken hold in this new environment. And along with curbside pickup is BOPUS, buy online, pick up in store. It as well. It has absolutely jumped to the forefront of the minds of retailers. Probably the 2 biggest areas in retail growth for the next couple of years that we'll see are more and more companies going to curbside and BOPUS as part of their normal business practice. And finally, contactless transaction. We've started to see that more and more with Apple Pay and card taps. You see it with the plexiglass PETG at checkout and trying to move people further apart. That's here to stay as well. And a few stats that have come up that really caught my ear going through all this is the first stat is 93% of all consumers expect major changes within retail environments to ensure their safety when they come back to the stores. And the number 1 buying criteria for a customer when entering a retail space is, how safe do I feel? So retailers, believe me, have picked up on that. They've noticed that the number 1 buying factor, and that 93% of people expect changes in their retail space to make customers not only feel safer, but to actually be safer. So an enormous stat off the bat. Another good stat is 42% of all consumers have branched out to a different retailer since basically in the last 2 months since this lockdown began. That's an enormously high number in a short period of time. Retailers have taken notice because they realize one thing: brand loyalty is what they've always relied on. It's not necessarily here for a post-COVID-19 world. That means they got one shot to get that customer back. And if that customer comes in the store and it's not a clean process and they don't feel safe, brand loyalty's out the window and they've got somebody else to go to now. And like we talked about contactless payments earlier, they're up 150% in the last 2 months during this lockdown. And of course, BOPUS, buy online, pick up in store, and curbside are up over 200%, 210%. I was talking to Target right before the holiday weekend. They are hiring new employees just to service the rise in demand in BOPUS and curbside that they have been seeing the last couple of months. They expect it's going to be here to stay, and it's going to be a large part of their effort moving forward. That was a picture I took of a local Dick's Sporting Goods, and that's their curbside process right now. I'll get to that later, why that's not acceptable long term. I'm sure you can take one look at it and see what I see too. And maybe most important on the statistical side is retail GDP. In a typical year recently, retail GDP is anywhere right around 2.5% retail GDP growth. 2020 is expected to be down 3.3%. The good news, most of that hit in April and March, and it's going to be here in May. The numbers are just awful, as we would expect. Everybody's down 50 or more percent. So we expect to see that. That means there's going to be growth in the back half of 2020 to get back to a negative 3.3%. And in 2021, an unprecedented growth of 7.2% retail GDP, which means the forecasters are kind of seeing what I'm seeing, that there's going to be an enormous amount of effort put into a post-COVID new normal world. Now, where are these signs going to be? That's an important part. One is going to be entryway. When you go into the store, you saw that directional signage earlier from Dick's. That's going to be, this aisle's one way, this way, curbside pickup if your items are this way. It could be any of a number of different directional things. We'll also have window signage, maybe like a foam core. The first one would have been a Gator Blast type directional sign. Second one will be a foam core, maybe in the window, describing the new contactless payment rules and regulations that could be there before they get into the store. You will be looking at sanitation stations. Each sanitation station is going to have a little sign on it. Not a little 11 by 14 or so type sign above or below where you're going to put the stuff on your hands. Like here, you see, in this case, it's a little bit below where you'll get the hand sanitizer in different spots throughout the store. There's going to be enormous need for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of these in every retail location. Restrooms are not going to look anything like what they do now in the future. Anybody wants to reach out to me after this, I'll get my email, but I'm part of a design group on what the new restrooms are going to look like in restaurants and retail, and it'll boggle your mind. It's going to be nothing like what you're used to, put it that way. But for now, we're going to need temporary Gator Blast type signage. This stall not in use, this sink not in use. Don't use this hand dryer. Keep your spacing. Same thing with fitting rooms. Currently, the thing that they're doing in fitting rooms is they're just doing every other fitting room. They're going to tear those out completely. They're just going to demolish them and go with the new fitting room procedure in the future. But in the interim, there's going to need to be signs saying this: do not use this fitting room. Use a different one. So there's going to be instructional signage for curbside, for BOPUS. That picture I showed you earlier of the Dick's Sporting Goods, I hope everyone could see. That was looking at where's the signs, where's the process being explained, where do I pick my material? I sat there and watched people for 10 or 15 minutes. The employees didn't know what was happening. The people shopping didn't know what was happening. Not a dig on Dick's. It's just something new to them. That's going to be a whole new process with brand new signage in the very near future. And I'll just touch real quick on restaurants as well. The drive-through lane that you're used to is what we have now is very stale compared to what you're going to see in the future, where you just drive up, place your order, go around, get your food. There's going to be a lot more branding, a lot more upselling, and there's going to be multiple drive-throughs. You're going to have your traditional drive-through. You're going to have your contactless payment drive-through. You're going to have your order by app drive-through. There's going to be almost no inside seating. By 2023, it's expected that over 50% of restaurants have 100% off-site dining, which means no people inside the restaurant. So the restaurant of the future is going to have multiple drive-through lanes. It's going to have an app order drive-through lane. It's going to have a curbside pickup area. Think of like a Sonic, where it's going to be undercover with numbers on the spaces. And then there's even going to be a separate kiosk in a whole different area of the restaurant away from everybody else, just for Uber Eats drivers and just for Grubhub drivers, where they'll go punch in a code, get your food out, and deliver it to you. So the restaurant's also going to have a whole new area for signage coming in the very near future. And there's 3 phases to what we're going through. We passed through phase 1. Phase 1 was the lockdown emergency phase. We have just started phase 2, which is the re-entry phase. We're in the infancy of that, and we're moving towards the stage 3, which is the new normal. Maybe the most important stage is what we've just started, the re-emergent state, because we're keeping a close eye. I'm keeping a close eye on Georgia personally, because Georgia's been open a little bit longer than everybody else, and we're finding really quick. Good news is revenue realities are exceeding the expectation. So they're outperforming what they expected to do. And we're finding that those retailers and those restaurants with a clear and defined process for BOPUS and curbside and takeout for the whole procedure, those retailers that have been clear and concise are absolutely crushing. Unfortunately, sometimes it's the mom and pop stores that are crushing those who are a little bit slow to react. And that's really what it's going to be in this. Whether you're a retailer, a restaurant, a printer, a distributor, or a manufacturer, those groups to adapt the quickest and the most effectively, there's going to be a bright future for those companies. But there are going to be some, unfortunately, that are a little bit slow and clunky to react. We've seen that a couple of stores have already, brands have already are closing all of their stores, partly because they are really clunky coming out of this COVID-19 world. So those who adapt the most effectively, there's going to be a bright future. Fortunately, at 3A, we're a little bit different than others in our product group, in that we are actually involved every single day with retailers, national restaurant brands. We're not only there getting visibility to what the new normal is going to look like, what this brave new world is going to be. We're part of the influencers. We're part of the design of what the new restroom is going to look like. We're helping design new fitting rooms and sanitation stations. So we have a little different insight into what's going on than some other people. And of course, we're glad to share that with you. My email address is alan.plunkett@3acomposites.com, alan.plunkett, P as in Paul, LUNKETT @3acomposites.com. This is just a 10,000-foot overview of what's going on. I can talk all day. You can tell about stuff like this. I'm totally fascinated by it. I think it's the biggest moment in my career and in anyone's career in retail or that serves retail. And I'll be glad to share everything I've learned through the years. You can tell by the gray hair. Anything I've learned through the years, I'll be glad to share with you. And anything about what this brave new world is going to look like, please feel free to reach out. And I thank you for your time. And I turn it back to you, Mike. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Thank you for all of you that have joined us today. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Alan. If you did not catch that email address, it is alan.plunkett@3acomposites.com, or you can reach out to your sales representative, your 3A sales representative, for further details on how to get in touch with Alan or to ask any questions. We look forward to serving you in the near future and hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Bye-bye now.